Hello and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make them establish. So my guest and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Melissa Amos. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both Melissa and I to be connected to like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy. And I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present, to expand your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, get clarity on your next steps, and take charge of your destiny so that you can fulfill your purpose in this lifetime. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation, and an angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guest, like today's guest, Melissa Amos, about how we're all mystics in training. Now, Melissa helps the spiritually curious all around the world cultivate their spirituality, embrace their intuition, and break free from past restrictions so that they can live a life of meaning and purpose. She's qualified as a soul transformation therapist, a spiritual counselor, Akashic Records reader, and Holy Fire Reiki Master teacher. Now, Melissa runs a global community, Soul Space, which helps its members to embrace their full potential, full self, quirks and all, and discover more about who they truly are. Her new book, Memoirs of a Mystic in Training, inspires the reader to understand the thread that weaves through the tapestry of your life and reminds you of the endless possibilities that are available to us in the marvellous messiness that we call our lives. Melissa's mission is to create ripples of light by reminding everyone that we are all indeed mystics in training and that we all have access to the mysteries of life. So without further delay, hello, Melissa, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Ah, you're welcome. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Melissa and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. And we've already got Adriana here, Natalie, and George. Welcome. So please don't be shy to say hello and ask questions. So, Melissa, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how were mystics in training?
Oh, my journey. I think it's so interesting when we think about how we've navigated through life and, the things that have been thrown at us. And for me, I do really like to reflect and, as I wrote my book. When I wrote my book, that was the biggest reflection that I ever had because it was a story of, me and how I began to navigate through this messiness that we call life. And, for me, I was really lucky growing up. My grandma was a hypnotherapist. So from a really young age, I was had that understanding and had that experience that our mind wasn't just picking up what is here in the physical world, that our consciousness actually has more power than maybe we're led to believe. And that our beliefs, our values, our things that guide us can change, and we actually have more control over that than we think. And so I grew up really interested in things like psychology and the way our language works and how we show up in the world. But I think a lot of the time what's missing for me was the spirituality or the magic kind of synchronicity side of things. So then in 2008, cue me and having everything that I should have at the age, in my early 20s. I had the job, I had the car, I had the house, I had the husband to be. I had all the things. I was a very high achiever. And what I didn't have was peace of mind, contentment, purpose, really. And I had this kind of low level anxiety and things weren't wonderful.
Yeah.
And that was when I discovered Reiki. And eventually I learned in 2008, when I felt that energy move through my hands, that first time when because I'd had Reiki and I'd felt it come into me and I was like, what is this? Sorcery. When I felt it actually come through my hands and I was like, okay, clearly there's a world out there that I don't understand. And being the geek I am, with a very curious mind, I wanted to understand all of it, all of it. So, you know, from this exploration of self-healing, of, you know, even the placebo effect of how the mind and the body all work together, how energy works with us, and then to things like the law of attraction and manifesting and this kind of co-creation aspects of the world and the nature of reality. I went in deep. And then through to spirit guides and the angels. And, you know, as I did Reiki, I started to realize that I would get these visions or these intuitive hits about my clients. So I wanted to learn more about that. So I sat in circle and started to do mediumship, which is where I met the angels and the guides. And, you know, and then eventually through to the Akashic Records, which is your soul's library. And really, like, I'm very curious. I just want to know all of it about everything. I'm fascinated with it. So that's what I've dedicated the last however many years of my life into discovering and exploring.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And it's really interesting, you know, how when we go back to our childhood and we look back at the things we enjoyed, the way our minds worked, etc., you kind of like see where that was leading you to and what your purpose really in life is, because that's such interesting information. But until you go back and look at it, you
Right,
don't realize.
right. I think that, you know, you ask, well, how is it that mystics in training? You know, if you think about what a mystic is somebody who begins to understand and experience the magic, the magnificence that there is in this world and in this life. And the truth is that magnificence, that magic, that mystery is all around us all the time. It's just whether or not we are tapping into it. And I can look back and see the opportunities that I had to tap into it, which I either ignored, which I did, or I chose to investigate and explore, which eventually I did too. And I don't think that you have to be a certain kind of person to be intuitive or to have this relationship with your guides, or to, you know, or to live or understand the energetics or to manifest something. I think it's really just this getting to know yourself and who you are and what lights you up and what restricts you, and all of the things that weave this tapestry of who you are. And then we start to look at, okay, well, what impact am I having? And what impact is the world having on me? And how is this dance coming and creating together? And I think the more we explore that, the more open we come to the synchronicities. You know, you've had synchronicities, they're like mind-blowing sometimes. And I think the more that happens, then the more trust you have that maybe I'm not alone in this universe. Maybe I'm here for a reason. And if I'm here for a reason, what is that reason? And if I'm here for a reason and I understand that reason, then how do I execute that reason?
Yeah, very, very, very good point. And it is kind of like noticing the synchronicities, and the more you start noticing them, the more and more they, you know, it's sort of like they really flow
Right.
into your life and everything. So how did you, I mean, obviously you're curious about everything. And
Yes.
I was one of those inquiring child, always asking questions.
Yeah.
My mum and dad really hated me because it would be like, but why?
Yeah.
Because I say, yeah, but why do you say, you know, it's like, yeah, so I think they kind of like, oh, God, that child.
I
But
now have those children, by the way.
I know actually saw a
Karma.
post. I saw the post the other day about your son and Reiki.
Right.
So how he explained how it came through his hand, how he felt it. Did you kind of like go, "Oh my God, that's kind of like how I felt," or is that his own way of actually experiencing it?
I tried my very best to not feed him information. I was just curious because, I teach Reiki and people often ask, well, how do I experience it and what is it? And it's very unique, I think, to the
Mm,
individual. And so for my son, we were just lying in bed and I said to him, there was this pain. I said to him, well, just scan, just use what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? And he began to describe that. And it was when I said to him, well, one day I'll teach you Reiki. And he went, I already know how to do it. Like, why? Why would you teach me? I was already attuned. I think I was already attuned to, was I maybe Reiki master by then or almost. So he's been with the energy.
mm.
Like when I was pregnant with him, I would give my belly Reiki often and he'd respond to that. So he's been with it forever. I remember when he was really little, like 2, 3, he was just kind of talking really, and he'd fallen over and I was giving him Reiki in his bed, and he was looking, and I was watching him looking at my hands, and I said to him, what can you see? And he said, it looks like, I'm paraphrasing here,
Yeah.
this was 10 years ago. He said, it looks like little worlds filled with glitter being pushed by fairies.
Oh, how beautiful.
Can't argue with that, can you?
No, you just cannot argue with that
Right?
whatsoever. And that is absolutely amazing. So,
Right.
where you were curious about learning all these different things, were they sort of like, you woke up one day and thought, oh, I'm going to explore Holy Fire Reiki, or oh, I'm going to explore the Akashic Records today. Were they sort of like intentional things, or were they just things that came across your path and you thought, oh, I'll look into that?
Yeah, second one. Really everything has came in some way, like a suggestion, or a have you read this, or have you heard of this, or I'll be speaking. I remember being in the office one day and talking about something, and somebody said to me, have you read The Secret? I was like, no, I'd never heard of it. Have you read? No. They're like, I can't believe you've not read it. And I was like, well, give me. And she lent me the book and I read The Secret and then all the other ones that came with it. And then it led to like the Abraham Hicks, the Holy Fire Reiki. It was interesting with that because I was in a really good place. I felt energetically at the time. I was like, I'm feeling good. I'd just done some other training. I'd, been Reiki trained for like 10 years or whatever it was, and or 8 years. And I was like, no, I don't need anything else. But the Holy Fire, people just kept talking to me about it, like different people. And I'm like, what is going on? And I kept pulling this card from one of Kyle Gray's decks, which was Rada. What is it? Twin something flame, holy flame or something. And I was like, come on, sacred flame. I can't remember. I was like, come on, there's got to be something there. And so it called me, and I had a lot of resistance actually towards taking it, but I was like, I can't ignore this anymore.
No.
And I took it, and it was one of those big ascension moments in those 3 days that I took it. My connection with my guides completely changed. The way that I responded to the word God, and the kind of more, I suppose, more religious aspects. I realized how much religious trauma I was holding and how
Mm.
much I'd rejected certain belief systems because they fell into organized religion, and how I'd closed myself off to like a massive really a massive energetic potential. So the holy fire was a massive thing for me. So now I understand why there was so much resistance to it, because with that comes new ways of being, which means letting go of old ways of being. So yeah, and the Akashic Records was similar. I'd never heard of it, and these chance meetings happened. And to cut a long story short, I ended up having a reading with the lady again, who you can't even make up how we met. And it was when I was in the records that I had this guidance on my first time in there, and it was, you should be working in the records. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know what they were until an hour ago, so what's this? And then it was weeks later it started, and again I'm like, I need to know all of the things. And so it really this combination of following my nose and letting my intuition guide and being open to possibilities, and reminding myself how I'd close myself off to the potential, like with Reiki, and that Reiki worked. And if Reiki works, then who else works? That's what I kept reminding myself. And goodness me, a lot of things work.
Yeah, they do. There's and there's even more stuff out there that we're not even aware of yet, or it's on the periphery, and it sort of like starts to feed in a little slowly. And everyone who's watching, if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask, about the various things that Melissa does, or if you've got any esoteric or spiritual questions, then I'm pretty sure that between us we can answer them for you with our combined knowledge. And a couple of people I know that watching can even jump in with their own answers, because I know that they've got some brilliant skills out there as well. So how did the book come about?
Goodness me, how did the book come about? It was another calling that I was like, no, who would? So my grandma, I've spoken about her at the beginning of here, she was a big supporter of mine, and she used to say to me years ago, she'd be like, Melissa, you must write a book. Promise me you'll write a book one day. And I'm like, yeah. Who would want to read a book by me, was what I thought. But, I humoured her. And so my grandma died in 2020. And just before she died, she started to write her own book called The High Notes. So my grandma, as well as a healer, she was a pianist. And so the book was going to be about, the high notes of her life, with the music as this theme. And, the book, she had some notes, but the book never got written. And I kept hearing this call and feeling this thing. And then one day, this is how it happened. One day I wrote a post. Somebody asked me a question. What have you achieved in your life? What are your biggest achievements? And I ruminated on it. And I started, as I do, I wrote it as a post. Facebook's like my diary. And I wrote this post, and I was like, that's the start of a book. And I'd been connected with this editor who I'd known some people who'd worked with her, and she'd kind of been in my periphery. And I emailed her and I was like, I've just written this. Is this the start of a book? And she went, yes. So I was like, okay, give me a week, because we were just in Mercury retrograde, right? And and not that I let Mercury retrograde rule my life, but I had this, that year, I'd had this like business astrology thing. And I looked on there to see what was going on. And there was this date a week later that was like, if you do something, then it's going to be a big, it's going to compound. So I was like, well, I'm going to wait there. So on that day, I sent her the money, signed up for this thing. I was like, what do I do? She said, just open your laptop and start writing. So I was like, okay. So I opened my laptop and I started writing, and I didn't stop writing. I did other things, but it was about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I wrote the book, the first draft, 60, 70,000 words, like that. And I was like, well, that was easy. I enjoyed every word. I was like, this is the best. I was having some hypnotherapy as well at the time. And I found that after my therapy sessions, that the words would flow, and I'd be like 3 hours just typing all of this. And it was interesting because I finished the book in around about, it was like October, November, like 2022. And the book didn't come out until August 2023 because I had this resistance to reading it. I didn't read it until like the February. I was just like, I'll just sit there. And then I worked with a friend and my editor, and we edited it and improved it, and wrote some more, and kind of my friend was giving me advice of where things were missing, and that was really a key part of it. And then I sent it out to some people that I looked up to and asked for them to read it, and to my delight and surprise, I got some amazing feedback from some people like Robert Holden. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Right. And then the book came, and it's, and it went to #1 in various countries, and it went to #3 on the whole of Amazon's movers and shakers list. And I was like, what is this, my life? And yeah, I still get some really good, I've had a lot of people contact me and say how it's touched them. The title of the book, yes, is Memoirs of a Mystic in Training. And even that, I was like, what do I call this book? And I heard in words, Memoirs of a Mystic. And I was like, I can't call my book that. I'm not a mystic. I was like, who do you think I am? Memoirs of a Mystic. And then it went in training. I was like, oh yeah, I can deal with that. So yeah, and I was like, this just makes sense because we are all mystics in training.
Yeah.
So
And
yes, that's
yeah, and what I'll do is when the show's finished, I'll put the link directly to Amazon where you can actually find the book. So you don't have to miss any of the show and go searching for it. I will put the link in after the show, and you can go straight there to find the book. And Lisa says that's so awesome.
thanks, Lisa.
So as we're all mystics in training, and I know a lot of people here are aware of spiritual side, and the esoteric side of things. But obviously, not everyone is up to speed or feels that they have the confidence to actually, or thinks, oh, I know it's all out there, but I don't have the intuition. I don't have it. Why would I, have anything like that? So how would you sort of like suggest to them that they actually, tap into that and understand it and know that they can do it as part of their training?
Well, it's important to remember that intuition isn't something esoteric, really. And it's not something that's outside of us. It's something that we all have, and it's skill. So see, Lisa says, yes, I let the fear get in the
Yeah.
way. The truth for me is this, like, we are hardwired. Let me reassure you, or maybe not, maybe this won't, but let's see. We're hardwired to track for fear. It's a survival mechanism. That is literally our #1 priority. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yeah, our #1 priority, survival. And so our natural default state is track for danger, look for fear, look for incongruence. So when people are kind of, being disingenuous or there's not something there, we're literally tracking for that all of the time. And if we just run on default, that's going to be our loudest voice. And we can be grateful for that because that's what's trying to keep us safe. If we just come into the awareness that there is a greater power, and that greater power is connected to, it's not separate from us. We are part of this greater power. So whatever that is for you, whether that's because you know that we're made of stardust and the stardust is the universe and we're all part of the same thing, then great. Whether it is because you know that we're a soul and the soul comes from, you know, source, and so we're all part of the thing, or, you know, this whole kind of unity consciousness, like whichever kind of way you look at it, if we can just open up to the possibility that there is this greater power that is guiding us into our highest awareness and potential. And if we can spend some moment, even if we're in default fear, but if we can spend some time, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 hour in a day, to connect with that and to allow that to communicate with us. How? Through journaling, through getting your cards out. That was like my favorite because it gives you something quite tangible. Through meditation practice, through yoga, through breath work, through conversation with a friend, through having tea with your guide, right? Like an imaginary thing. Just like we had imaginary friends when we were younger. If we can just allow for that, and even just ask ourselves that possibility of what would intuition tell me? How would intuition guide me today? Then it starts to open up that channel. You are not alone, and we aren't alone. And we're definitely not alone. And again, whether that is because it's your, you know, I've spoken about my grandma. When I'm doing my therapy work, so I trained, since she passed, I trained as a hypnotherapist to, you know, to honor her really and to further my growth. And when I'm doing that work, she talks through me. I know she does. And so whether that is our ancestors and our loved ones, or whether that's our guides or our angels, or whether that's even something else, you're not alone. There is a greater sense. And I think our job is just to learn the language that we use, because this bigger aspect of us wants to communicate with us as much as we want to communicate with it. And so it's not going to start to speak to us in Japanese if we speak English. It's going to talk to us in a way that we know. And that can often be the trick, because then we think, oh, well, I'm expecting what, I don't know what you're expecting, the apparition, harp to come down.
Yeah.
You know, like in that film, Michael, like, I'm expecting the thing. Like, that's never happened to me. Do you know how long I've been waiting for the angel?
Oh, tell me about it.
Never happened. I'm like, hello.
Yeah, it's never happened to me either.
Right? But it happens in ways that feel safe and familiar for you. So yes, you know, I want to say to Lisa, yes, your fears there, and we honor that. Your fears just trying to keep you safe. But also there's this. And so we invite that in as part of the conversation. Let fear be there. I'm not going to tell you to get rid of it, because that's scary on its own. Invite it in for tea as part of the conversation. And eventually that will become your bestie, and your fear will be like, okay, it will grow up. It won't be so, you know, prominent.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And Lisa says you two have made my day.
Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for asking the question, Lisa. You know, and sharing your fear with that. And Adriana is reading your book at the moment.
I love that. Love
I
that.
know that's brilliant, isn't it? That she's actually reading your book. Hi, Tammy. So,
Hi, Tammy.
so if anyone else has got any other questions or anything you want to ask them, then please do ask. You know, and it's, as you were saying, it is it's taken the time to actually tap into all this stuff. And I think that's the problem, a lot of the problem with life at the moment. People just don't feel they have the time to do it. But as I always say, you go to the bathroom, sit on the toilet, unless you've got kids and animals that keep coming in and disturb. But with animals, it's easier. But you got that time. You technically, you know, could have a deck of cards by your toilet. Yeah, you know, that few minutes of just for deep breathing. So
Right.
So when people say, "I don't have the time," it's like, well,
Yeah,
actually, the time is
yeah.
kinda like there.
The thing is, right, is despite popular opinion, like I'm really bad at meditating, the sitting there, breathing, taking time, taking space. I'm not even a massive journaler either. All these things, all of these tips, these are great tips. And I used to do them a lot more when I was practicing and receiving. Like I've got journals full of card readings that I did for myself and, free writing and all of this stuff. But, that's it's not really how I love to spend my time. For me, it really, this whole world is about bringing it into who you are. So it's not separate. It's not, yes, it's important to have spiritual practice because what that's doing is it's telling your body, your mind, it's regulating yourself. It's, bringing the healing. I've done Reiki, I think every day or some hands on every day since 2008. So we have a practice, but it's not something that's like, oh, well, I'm going to go and do this. I bring it into my day. So Lisa actually made a really good point. So she said, I'm hearing the Michael Jackson song, You Are Not Alone.
No.
She's hearing that. Where's that come from? Where's that come from? It's, it, this is your guidance team coming and talking to you. This is like the universe, your higher self, your soul, whatever it is, maybe Mr. Michael, right? In his
Yeah.
spirit coming and giving you something, some confirmation, some reassurance. And so yes, make time because that will tell all your parts how important this is for you. But more than that, bring it in. So what do I say to myself? There's two things that I say to myself most days. One is I commit to serving my highest power wholly, fully, and completely. Why do I say that? Because that's what I want to align to. You know how we default to fear? I don't want to default to fear. I want to default to my highest power. That's where I want to be tracking in and the guidance that comes from that. So this is what I say. I commit to my highest power wholly, fully, and completely. It's number one. And the second one is, and you'll know this, prayer. Thank you, angels, guides, higher self, universe, whatever it is, for reminding me that you're here. It feels so good to know that you're with me. And what does that do? Well, first of all, that reminds me I am not alone. Great. But also it invites in that possibility and that potential. And so now it makes me aware that the song on the radio, the feathers on my
Yeah.
path, the shivers down my back, maybe are something more than that. And so that's how you make space and take the time. You bring it in to your life. You take a mindful breath when you feel yourself moving into that. You're waiting for the bus. You're, waiting for the kettle to boil. You take a mindful breath. I'm not alone. That's it. It's
It
that simple.
it is, every morning when I wake up, I say good morning to my angels and guides, and I thank them for being with me throughout the day. If I'm out and about, I'll have conversations with them, parking spaces. I think Adriana said, I talk to my angels when I'm driving or out walking. Yeah, if I'm out driving, I want a parking space. Hi guys, do you want to come? Thank you so much for that parking space. And it works a treat. It's just literally remembering to talk to them, every day. And Andriana says, yes, I felt the angels around me while my daughter was having a mastectomy. They made me feel so calm. Yeah, and again, she received messages when she's out walking in nature. And that
Yeah.
is a good place to receive messages, walking out in nature,
Yeah.
because the energy is just so beautiful, even if it's pouring with rain.
Right. But the thing is if we can think about what the alternative is, because we might be saying this and you're like, well, that all sounds like a chore and I'm going to do my practice and do this. But like, what's the other option? Right. The other option is that we're in our heads. How many times have we gone for a walk and we're in our heads and we're so like, and the head's screaming at us and we're uncomfortable and our breathing's heavy and we're all tight on our shoulders and we're all like this. That's the alternative. What if we're feeling like that? This isn't about not feeling like that.
No.
We feel like this is life, right? And just a few weeks ago, I was feeling like I was feeling completely overwhelmed. There was all this stuff. I was like, I'd just been like unwell, and I was coming back to life, and there was, and I was just feeling a certain way. I went out for a walk, and rather than like, ugh, I was like, hey, I'm going to let it out because this is not doing anyone any good. So I went and I was on my own. And if there was anyone around me that have thought I was a crazy lady, maybe I am. And
I think people think that but the beauty nowadays is because people wear AirPods.
right.
Years ago when you were doing it, people would look at you really weirdly. Now they just take no notice.
That was me this morning. I've got these like headbands that keep your hair warm, right, your head warm. It's like I could have earpods in, and I was literally talking out loud to myself. And this woman looked at me, and I just carried on pretending like I was having a conversation with somebody, which I was. And I was in a conversation with my guide. So it's suddenly, rather than it just being in your head where it's just compounding and tumbling into itself, it's that remembering, well, I'm not alone and something's hearing me, and I'm not just telling them to complain about poor me. Doesn't my life suck? Isn't everybody horrible? I need your confirmation about that. This is how I feel, and I want to feel better. And thank you for helping me or reminding me how powerful I am. Thank you for reminding me that healing is possible. Thank you for reminding me that, yes, I do love my family. We're just having a bit of a moment today, right? And so it's this kind of like knowing, this remembrance that we have this support system and that they are there. And you know what? Whether they were there or not, actually, at the end of it, how did I feel? Well, I felt heard, and I felt better. I felt like I discharged whatever this energy that was. I transmuted the energy. It wasn't now feeling like I was feeling. I felt more free and open and supported. So that's what alternative do you want?
Yeah, absolutely, totally. And Julie says that's a beautiful way to remember this. And Lisa says, yeah, what a fabulous idea. And then maybe she was guided here as well. Exactly, Lisa.
Yeah.
You just never know where you're going to be guided to. But again, it's also one of those things, as you said, it's not suppressing or trying to negate away from it. And I think that's where a lot of teachings and that have come out in the past. I think more people are recognizing it now, but every single one of us, whether we've been doing this work for years, even if you were to look at, I don't know, Diana Cooper or, whatever, we live a human existence. So we still have to live in this 3D world. So we came here to experience all these emotions of fear and, whatever. It's just how we deal with them and transmute them, so that we can work with it. We don't ignore them and then just stay up on this high plane. We have to exist down here. So we have to experience all these things, but learn how to navigate them.
Right. I think that a big part of our purpose, and you mentioned purpose earlier, I think our purpose generally is to know ourselves. I think that's where it begins. But I think that a big part of us as humans and the human journey is to evolve. And the best way to evolve is to deal with stuff. And if we don't deal with stuff, well, then we're not growing. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to live the hard life. It doesn't mean we need to be the martyr. It doesn't even mean that we need to have the rock bottom moment necessarily. But if we find ourselves in those situations where things are hard and things are tough and, actually, what resources do I have that can help me move through this in a way that strengthens, empowers, evolves who I am. Maybe that's our mission.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And something you said there reminded me of something that years ago when I had imposter syndrome, and it was along the lines of, I've never had this rock bottom, on my knees, crying, praying, help me. That never ever happened to me. And it was like, well, if that's never happened to me, how can I be on this spiritual path? Because it's always been there. And it was that it was that imposter syndrome of, well, I've never had all of this. How can I be on this, be this spiritual person? And through having a reading and the people around me, it was like, okay, actually, no, you don't need to have that. Oh, I've had that in all my previous lifetimes. So I didn't need it in this. I didn't need it in this lifetime. But I think sometimes that is, and I think that's possibly changing now, but it was a big thing a while years ago. You had to have had this rock bottom moment where you just go, I surrender. And it's like,
Right.
it's not like that for everyone.
My take on that, I think that in every moment
Thank you, Lisa.
in our lives, we have opportunities, right? And we have moments where we can make choices. And now, I'm not suggesting here that if you find yourself at rock bottom, it's because you've made the wrong choices.
Mm,
I'm not. This is not what I'm suggesting.
no.
What you know, if what we are finding is the light, right? If we're gonna just kind of give it a word, what we're finding is the light, then at any moment, whether we're up here or down here, the light is available to us. And if we find it here, then maybe that's our path in. For many of us, and you mentioned about, the modern day life and how there's so many distractions, and we're not taught this stuff. But if we're taught about the light and about God and about all of this, it's in a way that's not really very empowering.
Mm,
And actually, dare I say that what we're actually taught very much is the opposite of this. And so this is ingrained in us, right? So where is the light the brightest? Well, when it's the darkest. And so if that light has been there and has been calling us, but we've not seen it for distraction or for, denial, for whatever it is, when we've been close to it, well, then when we hit that rock bottom, when it is the darkest that it is, that light is going to be brighter and more compelling. And so we're going to come up. So no, I definitely don't believe that you need to experience anything in order to find it. And actually, in the last 3-4 years, there's more and more people awakening and finding this understanding and this power. Maybe because the world became darker in 2020. I think a lot of people had this kind of dark, we had a collective dark night of the soul. And what happens then? Well, then the light gets stronger. And now, those of us who found this path 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, I think we had the privilege of being able kind of to have this slower journey. We could kind of we could do this. Now you wake up and you're like, boom,
exactly.
what is
What the
this?
hell?
It's like you're shaken awake. You're like, what's going on? And then I think it's those of us who, have had that slower maybe burn, that are here to guide and to help and to inspire and to lead that that next level.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that is the way things are working, especially with the people I'm coming across, the connections I'm making, and I have been making. It really is kind of like, yeah, it's leading and guiding, and then those people that you're leading and guiding start on to do their own leading and
Right,
guiding. So it's like
right.
this collective web going out.
Yeah. The world is ascending, and whatever you make of that, you make of that. The consciousness is rising, and I think it's really exciting times. But it can be a bit like unsettling, because things feel so different, and change, however much we ask for it, we don't like change. We're like our body, like I said, we track fear, so our body's like, oh, this feels very unfamiliar, I don't know what to do here, right? So
Yeah,
then those of us who have had that, we've jumped, we've fallen, we've been caught, and it's like that reassurance that it's okay and this is possible, and you can live this life without being, crazy or being taken away, because that happened
yeah,
not that long
that
ago.
did happen. Yes.
So I think that we're in very interesting times.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. The fact we chose to be born at this time, because there is so much, so many things happening, so many avenues we can explore, things we can be curious about, and we can understand, and it's just so amazing, and to be able to be part of creating all this shift in dynamics. It's like, enjoy being alive, because it is absolutely brilliant being here. So, as you know, regular viewers of the show, each week I like to ask my guests whether they would like me to do a mini guide meditation or pull an angel oracle card for themselves and those watching. Well, of course, when I have guests that I know do very similar things, I like to ask them if they would like to pull a card for everyone watching. And as I know Melissa has got some cards with her, shall we ask Melissa, would you like to pull a card for everyone who's watching?
Always. I always want to pull a card for everyone who's watching. I just love. There's always cards near me.
Mm.
Okay, so what we are, is this for them all, for everyone?
For everyone who's watching live or at a later date.
Okay.
Any guidance, information they need.
Yes, what do you need to know? Okay, I love this. So you've got the card of self-acceptance. First of all, what I'm drawn to is how she has her hands just here. And this is really reminding, as we started this conversation, I spoke about, for me, my first like real understanding of energetics came when I laid my hands and started to feel this energy move through. So for me, first of all, this is a reminder that you always have that. You always have that gentle touch. You always have that energetic, that comfort that's available to you. And so if you feel that overwhelm, or if you feel that things are starting to run away with you, find yourself a practice, whether it is this, for me, this, just bringing my hand to my heart, taking a breath. It's so easy, it's so available. It literally calms your nervous system down. There's certain places you can touch that will allow for that. So that's first of all. Second of all, obviously, this message of self-acceptance. I think what the step before that is self-awareness, knowing you're here, knowing, like we said, you're here for a reason in this time, going through what it is that you're going through, and just become aware of that. And like, I still got my hand on my heart. It's okay. Okay. Things are okay. I can get through this. I know who I am. And maybe asking for that help, and knowing that you have that you are worthy of receiving that guidance from spirit, angels, your higher self, the universe, your grandma, whatever it is. So I love this. That is a message for all of you. Wherever you are in your journey, you're in exactly the right place, and this is the beginning of the next step of where you're going.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
A beautiful message. So, Melissa, do you have any insights or thoughts or last words of wisdom to leave our viewers?
Oh, so many words of wisdom. that can come. You know, I think it's just important to be reminded that we all have our own path and we all have our own set of circumstances. We have our strengths, we have our talents, we have our hobbies, you know, those things that give us joy, those things that light us up, those things that we could just lose hours and hours of time doing. And if you have them, if they're yours, then they're yours. And I want to encourage you to follow them, whatever they are, because if there's something there that, you know, that gives you that spark, it's probably a reminder, a nudge, a clue into your purpose and your reason for being here. So start there, whatever that is. Get to know that. Even if you don't know, if you're like, I don't have any hobbies, there's nothing I like. Find it. What did you used to do as a child?
Exactly.
What do people come and talk to you about and ask you about all of the time, right? It's that thing. What kind of books do you like to read? What look at your reels on Facebook, right, and see what the algorithm's showing you, right? These things will start to give you clues. Start to learn that, because what I've learned is that it's often those talents and those strengths that are there that can help you move through the more challenging times or the more challenging traits that we have. You know, I don't think that we were given challenges and restrictions and limitations just to challenge us and restrict us and limit us. I think that we were given them so that we can evolve and so that we can move through us, and that our job here as earthlings is to discover who we truly are, which is a powerful, connected, beautiful, light-filled soul. That's who we are. Our job's to discover that, and we've all got it. And then part two is just look for the magic in life, because it's there. And if we are all mystics in training, which I definitely believe we are, then you'll find your language to discover that.
Beautiful. Thank you so, so much. And I hope everyone, you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, because I know I definitely have. So, Melissa, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
You'll find me across the social media channels at the Melissa Amos. Just put that in. You'll find my book on Amazon if you just put in across the countries Mystic in Training. And my website is melissa-amos.com. I do have a free gift that I would love to offer you. Now, we've spoken a lot about intuition and listening and how the universe speaks to us and all of this cool stuff. And sometimes, as we've said, it can be a bit like, but I don't know how. So if you go onto my website and then put the /free-gift, it will give you a guided meditation with a little exercise that can help you discover how the universe speaks to you, and how you can hone in that skill to kind of open up those perception channels. So just download it. It's free, and then you'll come on my mailing list, and I'll keep you updated with everything that's going on.
Yeah, and what I'll do is once the show's finished, I will actually put a poster in the comments, and literally there will be a link to the free gift, to the book, to the website, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So all you need to do is just click on that link, and you'll go straight there and be able to connect. And Julie says, thank you so much for your insights and wisdom, ladies. Melissa, you have such a wonderful, genuine, easy to understand way of expressing your message. Thank you. And Fiona, fabulous chat today. Thank you so much to everyone who's actually joined in the conversation, for your comments, your questions, your thoughts. It is absolutely wonderful when you do join in the conversation, because again, it reminds us that we're not alone, but also where you see the comments from other people as well, it reminds you again that there are other people there. So you are definitely not alone out in the world. You're welcome, Julie. I'll do that as soon as the show has finished, and Facebook and YouTube allow me to post that. So again, thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your wisdom. It's been absolutely brilliant. And of course, if you are now ready to remember your divine presence and step onto your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to reach out and connect with me so we can see where you are now and how you can move forward to take charge of your destiny so that you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, you can receive a free future life progression recording to discover your destiny by seeing into your future to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts by signing up to my mailing list. And again, thank you everyone so much for watching. And I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you. And the words of wisdom that Melissa has given today would help them on that journey. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when the show goes live or I post new guided meditations. And don't just, follow me on social media and comment and like. Melissa's on YouTube as well and on social media. And every subscribe, like, comment we get really helps get our message out there to help more people just like you. So you're playing your part in spreading this word of helping people step onto their spiritual path and take charge of their destiny. And I look forward to you joining us all, joining me again, same time, same place next week. Brilliant. I'm glad you managed to catch the show. Kevin, great to see you here. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.